Now, arrange the 5 steps of understanding level of teaching according to Morrison. Arrange the 5 steps of understanding level of teaching according to Morrison in ascending sequence. Ascending, that is not descending, not from the top to the bottom, but ascending, that is from the lowest level to the highest level. I mean, that's what it is supposed to mean, ascending. So, exploration is the first, and then is presentation. After presentation comes assimilation, and after assimilation comes organization, and then comes recitation. The unit of approach of Morrison is based on unit planning and transaction. The plan of teaching is cyclic. Morrison has given 5 steps of cycle phase of teaching: exploration, presentation, assimilation, organization, and recitation. Exploration. In this step, the teacher tries to know the student's entry level behavior, the previous knowledge. That's the entry level behavior, the previous knowledge. The presentation. Now, the overview of the subject matter is given and the structure of the whole unit is discussed with the students. Assimilation. In this step, the students study subject matter deeply and try to relate the presented material to their internal selves. Organization. The students present the acquired knowledge in a systematic manner without the help of a teacher. Recitation. Now, recitation. This step is related to the student's verbal expression of the subject matter which is learned by them. They revisit the whole content. Now, the understanding level of teaching. Under the understanding level of teaching, you first have 4 divisions. The first is focus, then the syntax, then the social system, then the support system. Under the syntax, you have 5 things. The first is exploration, presentation, assimilation, organization, and recitation. Now, the next, in model of teaching, ADDIE, the term D, the both D's, what do they stand for? Well, they stand for design and development. The ADDIE model stands for analysis, design, development, implementation, and evaluation, which are the 5 stages of the instructional design process used to develop effective instructional materials and activities. The first, analysis. The analysis stage of ADDIE training model lays the groundwork for an effective learning program. The instructional designers analyze learner demographies, their professional goals and preferences, current training needs, and skill gaps. The next is design. The design phase of the ADDIE training model involves a lot of brainstorming, prototyping, and testing. Here, instructional designers utilize all of the analysis from the previous phase to map out a blueprint of the learning program and make informed decisions on program strategy, format, structure, duration, delivery methods, and feedback mechanisms. Development. From creating engaging content to refining the learning framework, the development phase of ADDIE training model puts plans into action. Course content is generated instructional. The course content is the first generated, and then instructional and communicative strategies are put in place, and the final details such as multimedia and graphics are added. The aim is to make the learning product as appealing as possible to target audience. Ease of navigation and user friendliness are also taken into account. Implementation. The fourth phase of ADDIE model is about execution and delivery of the learning program and to its participants. This can be through e-learning, instructional-led learning, and blended learning. A large part of the implementation phase focuses on training educators on how to use the course content and training materials, familiarizing them with the technology on board and acquainting them with the end goals. Now, evaluation. The E of ADDIE evaluation focuses on measuring the efficacy of the entire learning program and rolling out improvements. However, evaluation occurs not only at the end of the ADDIE training model but is also necessary throughout its life cycle to ensure the best possible outcomes from each stage. Now, this is the design analysis, design, development, implementation, evaluation. Now, in learning, classical conditioning effects are an example of what? So they are an example of implicit memory. Classical conditioning effects are an example of implicit memory. The key points. Implicit memory. Implicit memory refers to the type of long-term memory that is unconsciously formed and retrieved without conscious awareness. It is also known as non-declarative memory because it is not consciously controlled or intentionally recalled. Classical conditioning is considered an example of implicit memory because it involves the formation of associations between stimuli and responses without conscious effort or awareness. Eidetic memory. Eidetic memory refers to the ability to vividly recall visual images or scenes with exceptional details, often referred to as photographic memory, and is not directly related to classical conditioning. Now, retroactive memory. Retroactive memory refers to a phenomena where new information interferes with the ability to recall previously learned information which is not directly applicable to classical conditioning. Now, the explicit memory, also known as declarative memory, is a type of long-term memory which involves conscious awareness and intentional recall of facts, events, or knowledge. Then, which of the following are the vital elements of pedagogical skills? Well, the answer is A, C, and E. A, C, and E. So, the vital elements of pedagogical skills are content knowledge, students' understanding, content knowledge, students' understanding of conception of the subject matter and learning, and teaching strategies. Intelligence of learners and personality of the learners are not the vital elements of pedagogical skills. So the key points, vital elements, content knowledge. This refers to the teacher's in-depth understanding and mastery of the subject matter being taught. Includes having a solid foundation of knowledge, being up to date with current research and developments in the field, and being able to effectively convey the content to the students. Now, the next, students' understanding of conceptions of the subject matter and learning. This involves understanding the student's prior knowledge, misconceptions, and learning styles. Includes being aware of the student's cognitive, emotional, and social development and adjusting the instruction accordingly to meet their individual needs. Teaching strategies. This refers to the various methods, techniques, and approaches used by teachers to facilitate student learning. It includes selecting appropriate instructional strategies, designing engaging lessons, providing effective explanations and demonstrations using appropriate questioning techniques, and utilizing formative assessments to monitor students' progress and adjust instruction as needed. Additional information. Personality of the learners and intelligence of the learners are important considerations in understanding the individual differences among students, but they are not specifically considered as vital elements of pedagogical learning. Pedagogical skills primarily focus on teachers' knowledge of the content, understanding of students' learning, and effective teaching strategies to facilitate learning. Now, a Swayam platform facilitates hosting of all courses taught in classrooms from class ninth to postgraduate. The Swayam platform is designed to offer courses for learners from ninth to postgraduate, available free of cost for the learners: art, science, engineering, management, study webs of active learning for young aspiring minds. Skills training to anyone, anywhere, at any time, includes video lectures, interactive ebooks, assignments, quizzes, and discussion forums. Now, the appropriateness, meaningfulness, and usefulness of specific inferences made from the measures is called validity. Validity is a critical aspect of research and measurement, as it determines the accuracy and legitimacy of the conclusions drawn from the data collected using the measures. In other words, validity ensures that inferences made from the measures are appropriate, meaningful, and useful in addressing the research questions or objectives of study. Validity can be assessed using various methods and techniques such as content validity, construct validity, criterion validity, face validity, among others. Ensuring the validity of measures is essential in conducting reliable and credible research and drawing accurate conclusions from the data collected. Now, parallel test reliability, also known as parallel forms reliability or alternate forms reliability, is a type of reliability assessment that measures the consistency or stability of test scores obtained from two or more different but equivalent versions of a test. Now, inter-rater reliability, also known as inter-observer reliability or inter-rater agreement, refers to the degree of agreement or consistency between two or more raters or observers who independently rate or score the same set of data observations. Now, retest reliability, also known as temporal stability or stability reliability, is a type of reliability assessment which measures the consistency or stability of test scores over time when the same test is administered to the same group of individuals or on two or more occasions. Now, in survey-based research in social sciences, when you decide to tell participants something false about the purpose of the research, you are using active deception. Active deception refers to intentionally misleading participants about the true purpose of the research, sometimes done to avoid bias or to prevent participants from altering their behavior in response to knowing the true purpose of the study. However, active deception is generally considered unethical and should only be used in rare cases where there is no other viable option. Active deception in survey-based research in social sciences refers to intentionally misleading participants about the purpose of study or the nature of the questions being asked. This is done to prevent participants from altering their behavior or responses based on their knowledge of the true purpose of study. De-hoaxing. De-hoaxing refers to informing participants of the true purpose of the study after the research has been completed. This is done to ensure that participants are not harmed by the deception and to maintain their trust in the research process. Now, naturalistic observation involves observing participants in their natural environment without any intervention or manipulation by the researcher. This can provide valuable insights into human behavior but may also be subject to bias or observer effects. Now, sensitization refers to the process of making participants more aware of a particular issue or phenomena through the research process. This can sometimes lead to changes in behavior or attitudes which can be both positive and negative depending on the context. Now, for nesting, difference in means of two independent samples with n1 and n2, the number of items in the two samples respectively, the t static, is computed with the following degree of freedom. So the degree of freedom here is n1 plus n2 minus 2. So remember this: for testing difference in means of two independent samples with n1 and n2, the number of items of two samples, the t static, is computed with the degree of freedom, which is n1 plus n2 minus 2. Now, in bibliographies and footnotes, researchers often use the abbreviation IBID, which means in the same place, ibidem. IBID stands for the Latin name ibidem, which means in the same place. Researchers use it in bibliographies and footnotes to refer to the same source cited in the immediately preceding reference. For example, if a researcher cites a book in a footnote and then cites the same book in the next footnote, instead of repeating the full citation, the researcher can simply write IBID to indicate that the citation is the same as the one in the previous footnote. Here is an example of how IBID can be used in a footnote. John Smith, The History of Science, New York, Penguin 2020, 43, IBID 45. In this example, the second footnote refers to the same source as the first footnote, so instead of repeating the full citation, researcher uses IBID to indicate the citation is the same. Now, answers to which among the following questions can be found in the discussion section in a research paper? So that's B, C, and E. B, C, and E. How do your results relate to existing studies on the topic? Under the discussion section, what do the results mean? And what new ideas emerged that you could evaluate in a subsequent experiment? So, how do your results relate to existing studies on the topic? This question is directly related to the main purpose of discussion section, which is to interpret the results of the study and explain their implications. Now, in the discussion section, researchers typically compare their finding to previous research on the same topic. They might explain how their results support or contradict existing theories or hypotheses, or suggest new avenues for future research based on their findings. The next, what do the results mean? This question is closely related to the previous, as the discussion section of the research paper is primarily focused on interpreting the results and explaining their significance. Now, the next, in the discussion section, researchers typically summarize their main findings and explain what they mean in the context of the research question or hypothesis. The next, they might discuss the implications of the results for theory, practice, or policy, and suggest avenues for future research based on their findings. The next, what new ideas emerged that you could evaluate in a subsequent experiment? While it is impossible that the discussion section of a research paper might briefly mention new ideas for future research, these are typically presented more fully in a separate future research section. In this section, researchers might suggest new directions for research based on the limitations or unanswered questions raised by their study, or based on new ideas that emerged during the course of their study. The purpose of this section is to provide a roadmap for future research in the field. Now, additional information. What kind of instrumentation was used in the study? So this question was not selected. What kind of not selected for the discussion section? The instrumentation refers to the equipment and tools used to collect data in a study. This information is typically provided in methods section of a research paper rather than the discussion section. In the methods section, researchers describe the materials and methods used in their study, including any instruments or apparatuses used to collect data. The purpose of this section is to provide enough detail for another researcher to replicate the study. Now, the next, which was not selected, was what were the results of any statistical tests? The results of statistical tests are typically presented in the results section of the research paper rather than the discussion section. In the results section, researchers typically present the data they collected and report the results of any statistical analyses they conducted. The purpose of this section is to provide an objective description of the data and results without interpretation. Now, the next, from the communication viewpoint, which one of the following is a cultural institution? Well, that is a family.